So first, just to kind of, we haven't got too long in this. We've got quite a quick turnaround. So first, little kind of warm-up activities to have a look at these photographs of things on your table. So there are should be four different photographs. So what are you missing on your one? Yeah, these ones are separate, but yeah, these are just the photographs, some signs. Here you go, this one. And these are just the stuff that you might see around. You might see around in park spaces or green spaces. And it's just, what do they make you think about when you see them? Is there anything you think might be kind of quite good thing about these signs or a problematic thing about them? There might be a place where there's an activity happening. There's a couple of more of these bash the balsam ones. If you don't know what balsam is, it's a Himalayan balsam is a plant growing pink flowers by riverside. Thought to be quite an invasive species for in our country. And there's messages about activities to bash the balsam, and sometimes you see messages around it being an invader or an impatient invader. So just sort of put yourself into someone else's shoes for a minute. Especially, so that one's interesting. If you, bees. So yes, so we've got bees. Bees are good.
But the bees like the balsam.
The bees like the balsam. Okay, the humans don't like the balsam. And
well, actually, the nature managers don't like
the nature
balsam.
managers. Yes.
That's not
not every human. Exactly.
Yeah.
So people who are managing that space for nature and want to have more native species will find that problematic. So imagine you're a new arrival to the country and you're going around your local park, which is an open and free space, and you see that message and you've got words about invader, you've got words, you might not know what bash means, but bashing is quite an aggressive term to actually be hitting something and destroying something. I think so. There's a lot of balsam bashing activities. I don't know whether is anyone actually, you can hold your hands up and go, yeah, we've done these, we advertise them, we call them balsam bashing. Okay.
But we do the practice.
Okay. Well, it's really, you call it bashing. Yeah. Okay, it's just a little one to think about because not everybody wants the language which is a little bit aggressive, maybe a bit masculine.
That's counterproductive, where you've got images of bees and we're all educated on bees, and you look
Yes.
at that and go, why would a member of the public look at that and go, good idea, let's get rid of bee habitat.
Yeah. So it looks quite nice. You've got that. Yeah. And sometimes the word invasive, alien species, people might hear this in the news to think, people might be, new migrants might be thinking, that language has a different meaning for me. We're not thinking in terms of native species. And from an ecologist, why would you think from an ecologist perspective if you're not an ecologist? So that's a little start. That's quite a provocative one. I started for 10. And then any other things that you think are interesting about these signs that you might see around, for good or for bad?
Some people might think that's a good thing. I feel safe. Others might think, oh God.
Yeah.
It feels a bit threatening.
I wouldn't want to go there if it had that sign.
I saw that sign and I wouldn't want to visit.
No,
I was.
And you don't see a lot of signage that says, oh, welcome here, please kick a football around, please have a picnic with your family, please spread a blanket out and lounge around.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
That one is a little bit, that's a bit of a don't do. It's a part rules. It's a little bit more light-hearted and a kind of...
I've seen that one, yeah. Where's that one?
But it still has like a swimming...
In the swimming pool.
The diving...
No bombing.
That's
No
Yeah.
cannibals.
That's
no
right.
cannibals.
No cannibals.
Yeah.
We rewrote ours recently because we had a rebrand, and when we arrived, the do nots sign was quite aggressive in its stance.
Yes.
It was lots of lines through stuff and no.
Yeah.
So we reworded each point and then had the icons adjusted to be not comic, but certainly more appealing, or what we felt was appealing and family friendly, as opposed to no, get off our site, because it was front and center as you arrived at our site was this big list of stuff you must not do. So it's we wanted it to be less threatening but informative.
Yes.
Did you ask the people?
Mm-hmm.
What did they like?
Well, and also what came across was lots of people who don't speak our language, so the icons weren't clear in terms of their communication. because it was all in English.
Yes.
And so we wanted the icons to be more clearly representing of what we're advising people about: no fishing and no fires and all of these no's, but how can you communicate it in a way that is more open?
Yeah.
So I don't know if we've got it right. We
very
did take
hard.
advice, but only anecdotal. We can't afford big focus groups research in that regard. It's literally talking to our visitors.
Yeah. And that involvement thing of other people. So there's a sign, with multiple languages of welcome, and there's a sort of sense of maybe if you know your area, there might be other languages. You might not know that there are other languages. That's another. You can get that from census data really easily. It's all open. You might not know that there are actually multiple languages. So if you're in, say, for example, South Lincolnshire, you might say, well, that's an incredibly white county. But you think, well, okay, there are multiple languages spoken in Boston, say, and there are many, many European languages spoken there. Might we have a Portuguese welcome? Might we have a Lithuanian welcome? So there are little fine tunings of welcome. There are things that can put us off. I go, yeah, antisocial behaviour. I don't think I'll come here then. To think about that working together, there's a really lovely example. So this can be split up. So feel free to split up this one with lots of pictures of icons here. So just take one and pass them around. And just to give you a little bit of background, that's an access audit that is lovingly designed by somebody on placement in Natural England, Natasha Ali, working with my colleague Jenny. And Natasha's a wheelchair user. And together, and they work with Trafford residents as well, and someone from TCV, and a group of adults with learning disabilities. And they used they involved a graphic designer, a non-binary person, Leo Soft-Welton, and they worked on this together. And it's not a standard. And if you'd like, you'll know where standards are, but I can also share some information with you afterwards. But this is to be used that groups could actually engage in this together and go around. Have I got lots for this table? You might need a bunch more. Here we go. So just kind of take a little look at those. And I think my question to you is, could you use one of these? Would one of these kind of things be useful for a group to go around, a site or your site? Would that be valuable in some way to have a little kind of go with something like that? And that doesn't feel perhaps, come and use our disability standards, come and use these. There are lots of very important standards, but just feel like, yeah, do these make sense? Could we use those?
I think National Trust, the union, similarly, National Trust in their handbook,
Yeah.
to gauge the dog friendliness. So obviously one's something that's not particularly, it's still 1, but you have something that goes up to 4, and it seems like that.
Yeah.
A rating that people recognise in its respects.
I think it's tricky from what Debbie North was saying earlier, that in some ways, if everybody's got their own way of doing it,
Yeah.
that's quite tricky, because we all care theoretically about our organisation's identity, don't we?
Yeah.
We're all thinking actually we want to be, which is not the same as
Yes, there's another one.
kind of thing. But actually, users don't care.
No.
They just want to have enough information to make the best decision for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And so something like this is something you could adapt. You can get a copy of this. I can send this to you. Something you could use for, even if you're not using it, you can use for a talking point with trustees, people you work with, colleagues you work with, to say, are we communicating how we want to, or have we got things that we can do with a group? And I think that involvement of a group, or thinking we haven't got enough money to commission something or other, there are ways to involve local groups who get a special invite to come in and to have a go and feel like, especially local folk, are participating and making their decisions for their local area. We all know that lots of our decisions around parks and spaces, and particularly with nature, aren't open to everyday people. It's kind of specialists who are making decisions for nature and green space. But could something like this be used by folk that you kind of work with? And just another question around this is, what would you do? What do you do with the changes that are suggested from this? What do you do as a next step? What feels like the right thing to do next? Or what's a blocker for you?
I think funds
Yes.
is often a blocker. So I think we often know what we want to do to make our reserves more accessible, for example.
Yeah.
But it's then we have to then find that within our allocated budget for that reserve to prioritise, and you can't do everything on the list. So you have to try and prioritise what you think is the most important thing, and that's different for different people. So it's not an easy answer to get to.
It's not easy, is it? I suppose other people have probably got that as well. One thought is, so I just got your RSPB. So one thought is that when you've got a bunch of people all working together, where if you have a partnership of people who, and you probably think this already and do this in lots of other areas, if you get a group of people together who are a partnership working on accessibility or changing signage or something, then if you put in for a funding bid somewhere else, external to your organisation, to address, it could be, you're maybe addressing something else through that. It's not just we're going through our accessibility pot within the organisation. It could be that you're addressing something else. Then that partnership could be a bit stronger. And I'm just wondering, that's the kind of way that naturally, and we're really kind of quite a great fan of partnerships. We know we can see things happening when a whole bunch of people are getting together and doing that. And this can be a way of overcoming some of those internal funding barriers. So, can you think of any groups who, just like off the top of your head in your local area, or do you know of anyone who might know a group who'd be up for coming to do something like this? Anybody? Yeah, anyone want to suggest a?
See, I've got a friends of group in my main park who are very good, but they're very like middle class. Retired. But we also have ARCOS, who are an organisation who don't necessarily engage with us directly, but they do use the park. And my issue with my main park is it's the Malvern Hills and the park is, and how you make that accessible and you tell people it's accessible. Whereas at the moment people do access it if they feel able.
Yeah.
And I would like to open that up. And we have a really good play area. I can't really put accessible equipment in it because you can't get to it because it's the topography is so difficult. So we've had an accessibility study which hasn't really answered how to get people in. So it's the sort of wider use of the park, not just people with limited mobility, but everyone using the park, and not just the kids and their parents at weekends.
Yeah.
So that it's stumped, if I'm honest. I'm a bit stumped with that.
Yeah. So have you, I'm just thinking about if you say there's a particular group of people who we know aren't using it already, so you may have parents or with kids at the weekend, could there be, so I'm just trying to think of a gap or a particular group who do live in the area. So it's no use thinking, well, we haven't got Lithuanian families in our area, say. So is there a group you can say, well, we really would like to, you could start off with, say, women with perinatal mental health difficulties, say, or it could be a diabetes users group, or so there's a kind of sort of way to think about the wider society thing. Well, who's on the leaflets in the GP surgeries, or who uses in the library? I just want to say libraries, everyone. Libraries. Librarians have often your local libraries will have that list of groups, and your community voluntary service.
Would it be your local mind? So you might decide actually we're going to try one. We'll actually try it out with one.
A double a bit, couldn't it?
One group. Yeah. So try that one group. Yeah, you were going to suggest something.
Maybe not beneficial for you, but being local authorities, so we go to partnership groups or our community groups, and then they can then signpost us to the relevant organisations or groups or clubs that might be helpful for us to look into.
Absolutely.
Concern needs within parks or just within the community.
Yeah.
I think there is something about not, and Debbie alluded to it earlier, is that they don't want that people don't want everything tarmacked, but they want to know enough in order to make the best decision for themselves.
Actually, I thought the idea of a
Yes.
social story on our website, we don't have that yet. We have social
Yeah.
stories for particular events, but we don't have a kind of site-wide access story. And I thought, my goodness, why aren't we doing that? That's really obvious to me now.
It is just such a
And I just
such a
feel like,
winner.
oh,
Yeah, that's a real.
Why do we not do that? Of course we should.
Yeah.
We always think about it for our events for children and
Yeah.
you know, but actually. It's
What about for everybody? Yeah. So quite often that events for children thing, well, it's covered, right? We've done that, but you could do that for everyone, and that's that story. Which brings me on to the know before you go type info. So does anyone have, in whatever state of disrepair or not very goodness, does anyone have know before you go information that, you know, for your places? Yeah. Council website. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else got a bit of that going on?
Yeah, our
Yeah.
SPV website.
Yeah.
Yes.
HR reserves information about accessibility.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So those places are absolute gold. They're really, really great. We've got a little example here of. I'm just going to make sure you've got these on both. I've got lots. So it's a bit papery today. Sorry about the paper thing. I just kind of just keeping it. You know, we have so much stuff on Teams and on calls. It's just nice to have a thing to look at. So this map, this is Green Map of Nottingham, is something that is just a little initiative that we've been keeping an eye on and helping out. So if you just want to pass around those, there's also a web link if you want to look at that web link. I want to say this is so.
I wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't.
No, I work for Nottingham. That's horrendous.
What's horrendous?
The website.
It's not Nottingham. That's not
it's the
Nottingham
Nottingham
Council. No, it's the not. Yes, so Nottingham Open Spaces Forum. I thought you were going to say I've looked at it. It's horrendous. Well, it's early days. Nottingham Open Spaces Forum, who normally come to this, who would like to come to this. We've been listening to them and budding up with them a little bit, and they've developed just a very early start of a green map.
We had all of these for all of our parents probably
Yes.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
And they were in printed form and they sit in a cupboard.
Right.
We have nowhere to display them. In that
Yes.
15 years, sort of society's gone very electronic.
Yeah.
And it's never been updated. Funding was lost. But
right. Yeah.
the city, they're doing what City Council won't do for us, which is actually give us space on the website to provide this sort of information. Years ago, it used to be on there.
And this is what happens sometimes. There's a circle of things, and now is the time when this is revitalised. And what is interesting here about the icons, so I just want you to have a little look at the icon sheet. Is there anything that looks different or unusual that you don't normally see in the... Have you got icons?
Well, this is
Anything sort of unusual that you don't normally see? And they haven't finished the disability piece on this at all. It's not ready yet. But the kind of stuff, so just think about what... yes, I don't got enough of these. It's just two coming around. It's a very early stage website, so...
Joe, questions about these ones?
No, yeah, so this is the full page of them.
Right.
the wetlands and the
Fire? Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm not sure why this is an example sheet, why some of them are double duplicated in brown. But yes, yeah, no, I'm not sure what the significance of that is. No, I don't know about that. So there are some slightly unusual ones there.
Yeah.
In terms of what you expect to see in a nature place. So, for example, the stargazing and sunrise.
Yes.
And not everyone is into, a rare toad or into gardening, that their nature connection is something like, do you know what, I just want to go and stand and see a sunrise. And so you've got a sunrise place, that might just be appealing on a spiritual well-being level. And that might be your first introduction. So these icons have been designed by a fab autistic designer. So in terms of thinking inclusively, the designer is autistic from Stencil Creative Agency. They've been working with the existing groups to say, what do you want? This is still going to grow. What kind of icons do we need? What do we want to say? They want to open out the offer about getting involved. It's not just about going to see. It's like, how could you be involved? What kind of, is there a volunteering on a Thursday? You'd need to know that. Who's that for? Is there a women's group on a Wednesday morning? That kind of, you can share that information. And part of my role is I'm just going to be kind of keeping on encouraging with that and looking and saying, have you kind of really made that offer open really broadly? And it's a really, really diverse city. And are we getting stuff that's more than just great for middle class white users, really? That kind of thing. So it's, is there anything that you think you could do like this? They've done some fundraising. It's been a partnership again. They've got a green social prescribing group involved from the NCVS in Nottingham CVS, Community Voluntary Service. They've been begging, borrowing, involving the council, talking to Natural England, and it's a work of passion to say, how can this be more inclusive? And next stage, what would be good places to share this information? Just thinking. So you were saying, yeah.
So have they got, so I always think, we do lots of cool digital things because we've just had an X-year grant from such and such a body, but then we don't maintain them.
Yeah.
And I always think before we kind of get into have we got a plan for actually maintaining these?
Yes, so it's about they're seeking funding for that maintenance plan, which actually has to be done. They're getting funding for somebody to be employed on this part-time, and it's that long-term planning. That is the main. With websites, it's always the maintenance. They are going to print these out. So let's just imagine we've got folk who are not doing digital stuff. Where would you share if you got your lovely little guys and they're looking really nice? Where might you go and put those in your community? Any kind of ideas where you set kind of drop them off? Or
Digital, maybe the post office, the library, that sort of place where you go.
Yeah, art galleries, museums. Yeah.
Those targeted groups, the list that you've just been and got, actually, but you might do it in a strategic way. You might say, right, this year we're going to do various mums with various that belong to various groups.
Yes, yeah.
But next year we're going to do young people who've been excluded from school or blah blah blah.
Yeah, and that's you just talked about my job, Sunita. Actually, my job is that I want to do all the things all of the time. But the thing is, having that plan to say, well, we can't. We're going to really focus on these villages actually this year, or we're just going to focus on this part of the county which could get most benefit soon. We know that there are deprived areas here. We would go to the clubs and societies there. So it's that kind of targeted thing. And you're right that I think every council or community voluntary service has that list of clubs, and thinking to other sectors. So, not just nature stuff for nature people, but museums, doctors' surgeries. Yeah, absolutely. Doctor surgeries are great. All sorts of pet shops. Sometimes, there's all sorts of interesting places that will go. Yeah, we could do that. Yes, and the vets. Absolutely. So that's sort of thinking about who could get hold of these that needs them that wouldn't normally, and then a group who would lead someone else. So I can think about a wellbeing charity that I know of. And there was a leader there, and she would be able to. She was really well trusted and well recognised, and she would take groups. I mentioned that diabetes. She would be supporting people with diabetes, and she was their go-to person. So she would say, "Right, we're doing this kind of thing together." So she'd be the person to go to. So it's like, how might you share those sort of things? So what kind of time have we got? Does anyone know? Just making sure.
It's between 10 past and quarter past.
Does anyone know what time this finishes?
I thought it was quarter past.
I thought it might be. So I just kind of think, just to introduce you to 2 ways, 2:20, and it goes on till 2. Oh, we do, and it's now, so any kind of time.
It's coming up to quarter past. We've got about 8 minutes.
So I've got some kind of possible things you might kind of just do and chat among. I really recommend chatting to someone next to you, or 2 people who are from somewhere completely different, and think about kind of who are your allies, who would be a bit of a dream team for kind of helping you communicate a sense of welcome or assessing a sense of welcome. Who are your people who are, let's imagine there was this amazing, lottery funding or whatever funding pot, and it was yours. Who would be in that little team of people who are going to work out whether your place was welcoming or do that communication, like kind of share some messages. So just have a little chat with the person next to you. And if you can't think of something, then they might give you ideas. So yeah, just turn to the person next to you if you've got someone to have a go with.